Yo, what is up YouTube? My name is Alex Lugo, and I'm a little sick today.
You look crazy, Siak.
Right. Kind of like that. But anyway, I have a very special video for all of you today. As most of you probably already know, my very first video on this channel was Civilization Simulator 2. It is by far my most popular video. I had posted up on Reddit to r/dataisbeautiful, and I got a lot of really good positive feedback from it. And by my standards, it kind of went viral. So this is the post I put up on Reddit earlier today, and it has 4.7 thousand upvotes. Granted, my next most popular video has like 40 views. And because that was version 2 of my civsim project, obviously I would eventually be showing off version 1. And that's what I'm going to do today. Even though I think personally version 2 perfected what I wanted to do with version 1, this is the program that started off my Civilization Simulator series. So without further ado, let's get into it. Just to get this out of the way, I'm going to be showing off a demo of Civilization Simulator 1 as I'm explaining how it works. The story behind version 2 is I really liked history class and I wanted more history to analyze and watch histograms go up and down of. And the inspiration for version 1 isn't too different from that. Senior year in high school, I really loved watching this YouTuber called CaryKH. And he had this really awesome series about evolution simulators. And in that series, it had this histogram in it. And that's really the base inspiration of how I came up with civsim 1, is really just that histogram. I loved watching the different species of creatures rise and fall, and different species would take over from others. And I wanted to recreate that, but with like a StarCraft 2 type players, like AIs. And I know it looks a lot like Sid Meier's Civilization, but I hadn't really heard too much about that at that point. Yes, later versions like version 3 was heavily inspired by Sid Meier's Civ 6, but this version in particular is more so based on that YouTube series. I had also wanted to play with the idea of neural networks and create my first ever AI, and I also learned how to do that from Cary's videos. Essentially, I wanted to build something with an awesome histogram, competing empires, and a neural network. And I placed a lot less focus, or really no focus at all, on the concept of an evolutionary algorithm. And I was also inspired a bit by AP World History, just like I was for version 2. So now that you've seen a bit of the program in action, I'm sort of going to explain how some of the code works. This was my very first AI, and it kind of shows. It's a neural network. I wouldn't quite call it deep learning. I guess you would say it's shallow learning. I have a set of input nodes and a set of output nodes and just synapses directly between them. So there's literally no deep layers between the inputs and outputs. I don't even know if it technically counts as a neural network, but hey, whatever. It's still kind of a network and it's still kind of neural, so I'm just gonna go for it. The entire simulation takes place inside a randomly generated two-dimensional continent. And the code for generating these continents is based on something I had written a year before in high school. I just really like the concept of randomly generated continents made by a computer that still look pretty natural. So you notice a lot of these continents have like islands and peninsulas and inland lakes and stuff like that. So I consider that one of the most successful algorithms I've written. The continent that gets generated by my algorithm is essentially a 2D grid that holds cities and armies. Armies are the little circly dudes, and cities are the little squares. Each tile on the map is grass with a particular food level, or if it's blue, that means it's just water. Cities can consume food and create armies. Armies can attack other units around the map, and they can also found cities. Armies only have a limited amount of food. They can't actually gain more from the ground surrounding them, which means that if the army wants to survive, they're going to have to settle down and found a city. Food also doesn't regrow at all in the map, so eventually heat death takes the entire thing and everybody is wiped out because there's no more resources on the planet. Which, now that I think about it, is an awfully depressing way to create my first civilization simulator. And I'm just going to explain the AI real quick because it's like super simple. So every emperor, or essentially player in the simulation, goes through all of its cities and armies and passes it through its neural network algorithm. And for each city and army has a specific set of inputs. And these inputs correspond to which allied or enemy cities or armies might be around that unit at the particular turn, what food or population it has at any given time, stuff like that. And because it's a really simple neural network, every input node in the neural network directly corresponds to every single output node. And these connections or synapses have some specific weight value. So essentially what I do is I go through every input node, I say, this is either turned on or off. And if it's on, then I add that weight value of the synapse to the output nodes. And then I go through every output node, whichever one has the highest cumulative weight by the end gets run for that army or city. So it works just like your classical neural network AI, except there's no deep layers. Oh, and then after every turn, if the AI finds that it's lost cities by doing what it just did, it randomly recreates the synapses. So now they'll have different weights for the next turn. And if it finds that it gains cities, meaning that it did something well, it will just keep doing what it's doing. That's basically just a really lazy way to tell the computer, hey, learn from your mistakes. So what I showed you guys while I was explaining why I built this program was the pure version of version 1. Version 1.0, if you will. Version 1 never quite lived up to my expectation of what I wanted civsim to be. Version 2, I think, did a lot better of a job at this. And because of that, I ended up experimenting a lot with version 1. What you find in version 1 is that essentially all of the empires rise up, and then they all collapse in heat death. But there's not much shifting around of political power throughout the simulation. Granted, in version 2, most sims are pretty unstable, so it seems like everyone's winning at some point. But at least it's more dynamic than version 1. In version 1, you end up with this histogram that's basically just a normal distribution. I wanted to introduce some sort of dynamicness into version 1. So one of the concepts I experimented with was terraforming. Essentially, when the simulation hit a certain point, what I would do is I would change up the food values on randomly selected pieces of land. So some AI that's on the brink of collapse on a bunch of wasteland would all of a sudden get a new set of food resources that it could use to bounce back against its more successful rivals. I showed you version 1.0, which didn't have terraforming, but right now I'm about to put it back in just to show you guys what it looks like. Okay. Let's just go ahead and uncomment everything I have to get terraforming to work again. Let's see, take out the function, take this out, and this is the code bit that actually calls terraforming. This stuff right here. So for about 250 turns, we're going to get random pieces of the landmass regenerating its food supply. Okay, let's see if this makes any more interesting. So as you can see right here, nothing much is happening. Oh, as soon as I said that, red is starting to grow, orange is starting to grow. So the AIs are finally starting to learn that they should probably be creating armies and stuff like that if there's empty space near them. So white grew a little bit, but it's kind of stagnating. And obviously as soon as I say that, it starts growing again. Red and orange are starting to take off. Ooh, and cayenne looks like they just grew out of orange. So if I click on a city right here, or even an army, I can see what nation, what population, food, position they have, and also what food value is still on the land. Magenta is just growing out of red. Gray has just grown out of yellow. There's actually a lot more budding nations in the simulation than there have been in the ones that I ran before this. And so this is running with terraforming, so we'll see how that affects stuff once that gets around. Gray's kind of landlocked in here, so I don't expect them to be doing too well. Same with cyan, or cayenne, however you pronounce it. Although magenta looks like they might be able to escape from red, but I doubt it. Red looks pretty aggressive right in this region. Now white is moving out over here. Yellow's also moving to the east, and we'll get to see, it'll be kind of interesting to see who actually dominates before terraforming hits the planet. And so all this black stuff right here, this is wastelands. All the food here has been depleted, unlike this area. Ooh, green just popped up. Yeah, unlike this area. So once terraforming hits, we'll see this land regenerate a bit. Oh, and here it comes. Yeah, so when I have the terraforming code, it just gets like this random squares, and it just sets their food to like 2000 or whatever. And the exact color of land actually is determined by how much food is there. And since I set it to just 2000 for everything, that's why it's a solid color. Whereas the continent generator algorithm actually makes it more of a gradient. And I might actually explain that algorithm a bit more in a later video. So everything's just kind of going crazy at this point. If you look at the histogram, it had this like huge upward curve, and well, white looks pretty good. Actually, yellow's making a big comeback, but everyone's kind of like mixed in together. We have a new budding nation, pink, that looks like it's about to get taken out. Magenta's still around. Gray still is a little bit. I think, yeah, cyan has like one city left. Let's watch it die out.
I say let it die.
Has one army too. Yeah, I think he's gonna die soon. Well, he's still got a lot of food on his land. He might survive for a while. Pink might be dying out over here, but they just, oh, never mind. So it's gonna be terraforming like this for about 250 turns. Wow, the population has really jumped back up. Look at all this. It's crazy. I'm still waiting for cyan to die. It's taking a bit longer than I thought. There's only 30 people in this, 40 people in the city. I don't see why it's not dead yet. It's because there's so much food. It's 40 fat people in that city. That's for sure. Well-fed people. How long is terraforming supposed to last for again? Like 250 turns. This might take a little while. So we have what appears to be a third population spike coming in due to terraforming. Yeah, I was super disappointed when I first implemented this because I was like, oh my god, terraforming, finally, the histogram is going to be really interesting. And I had imagined like civsim 2 levels of interesting, but really it's just extra camel humps, essentially, is what these are. You just have 3 population spikes and that's it. Or it might be 4. So we'll run it for a little bit longer. You get the idea. I mean, you've seen the heat death before, so I might just skip through after this point to the very end. Okay, yeah, so terraforming is done on this planet, which means almost everything is a wasteland now, and heat death is about to take the world. If you ever read this book, The Dying Earth, which by the way is like one of my favorite books ever, this kind of reminds me of that. It's basically about like the sun is on its last leg and Earth has been around, or human civilization has been on Earth for like millions of years now. So you have all these crazy futuristic looking, well, not quite futuristic. It's like part sci-fi, part fantasy, like civilizations now. There's hardly any cities like, you know, this simulation even. And they're dying out one by one. So this kind of reminds me of The Dying Earth. By, I think his name is Jack Vance, the guy who wrote it. I can't remember, it's been a while since I read it. And now as the last cities, what is this, like, yeah, the last 7 cities, because this is just the last patch of fertile land. The last 4 cities are about to flicker out. 3 cities and an army. Oh, he's dead. Yeah, the last 3 cities are about to flicker out. Oh, last city. It's just water. Let's watch him die. He's dead.
Loser.
And that's basically what version 1.1 looks like. So I know I said I'd explain the continent generator algorithm in a different video, but I think I'm just going to go ahead and explain it here, because why not? It's simple enough to explain here. So the continent starts out as a world defined by a grid, and in this case it's a 65 by 65 tile grid. Everything starts out as undefined, right? So you have 65 by 65 undefined tiles. What the algorithm does is it selects a handful of seeds. I think it's like probably like 25 to 100 seeds, right? And all these seed tiles are at random locations around the grid. Now every tile is set to either some value for food or just water. So every tile that's still undefined, every non-seed tile, looks at its closest seed, and if the closest seed is water, it becomes water. If the closest seed is land, then that tile will become some food value proportional to its distance from the seed tile. And once you've done all that for every single tile, you get these really cool natural looking land masses. So you can get stuff like islands, inland lakes, peninsulas, different continents. And I like this algorithm so much that I kept it around for version 2, version 3, and even version 4. Although I did make some pretty good optimization updates in version 3. And that's basically how the continent generation works. Nothing too complicated there, but I think it's a really great algorithm because it's simple, it's elegant, and it gets this result that perfectly matches the vision I had in my head. And that's pretty much all there is to civsim 1. Now, I'm going to go ahead and end this video with one more simulation. Thank you all so much for watching till the end of this video. Go ahead and like, comment, or subscribe if you like this video. Feel free to click the bell below to get notified whenever I upload a new video, or you can follow me at the social medias listed down below. Just like version 2, I've got the code for this project on GitHub in case you want to fork it and try messing around with it yourself. Maybe you can end up making it a bit more dynamic than I did. I kind of lost interest in the project when senior year in high school started up because I had way too much stuff to do, but eventually it did lead into version 2, so I think ultimately this project was definitely worth it. Oh, and to get you guys excited for version 3, here's a little clip of that version running its AIs. Thank you all for watching, and I'll see you guys next time.